Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer for Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dylan Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for geekvibesnation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Attic new release roundup. If you're new here, welcome. What we do is we go back and forth and we talk about the latest home video releases, some good, some bad, some awful. But you know what? We have a great time doing it. But you have an exciting announcement.
Yes, for those faithful followers of our show, they'll have heard this last week. So there's actually two chances, but we have a giveaway. And it is the Swamp Thing 4K from MBD Entertainment, which I will be going into later on in this episode. But yes, the Wes Craven Swamp Thing is being released on 4K on August 8th. And you have a chance to win your own copy for free from the Video Attic. All you have to do is watch this episode. Let us know which release we talk about you are most excited to check out. And just leave a comment with that release and you'll be entered to win. The same thing applies to last week's episode. So if you want two chances, you can take another, leave a comment there, and also pay attention to our social media for Geek Vibes Nation. We'll also have additional chances there. So lots of chances to win Swamp Thing on 4K. So just stay tuned and listen to our sweet dulcet tones talk about these great titles.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. That is actually like one of the maybe the coolest things we've given away so far. So that's really exciting. Speaking of exciting, I was really excited because this was something that I know has like been really hotly anticipated for a lot of fans, and that is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is the 2003 series, and this mega complete set. The back. So let me like pop open this thing. So this includes the complete series and the TV movie. I'll talk about that more in a second here. But just to show you all what it looks like inside, we have like these gatefold discs, which you have to be really careful with, but I think it's kind of like one of the better options. Just be really careful with them. But yeah, this is a fun series. So this was a series that I liked when it came out, but I kind of like fell off a little bit as like time went on. So it was fun to go back, revisit. And yeah, I love that they adopted sort of the darker tone that was like more prevalent in like the original comics. And but it's still, even though it's kind of dark, it still has a playful tone. Like ultimately, this still is for kids. So I'm not going to go into like the whole crazy history of this series, but I will link. There's a YouTuber that did an excellent video covering this series, like just kind of the turbulent stuff that happened. So yeah, I'll link in the description if you're curious about that. But just to say, this set looks really nice. So this is the first time that this has been available in the US. I'm not sure otherwise, but at least in the US, this is the first home video, official home video release for this series. I know prior to this, I think you could stream, like legally, you could stream it, maybe buy it on demand or a VOD. But if you're, if you want the physical copy, now is the time. So yeah, it was a really fun series. I'm still kind of working my way through it because there's over 100 episodes. So bear with me. There's 155, I think, to be precise, and a TV movie, which is really cool because not only does it act as a like fun sort of wrap up to the series, but it's sort of this multiverse where these incarnation of the Ninja Turtles meet the 1989 original cartoon Ninja Turtles, and that's really fun. And yeah, like there's all the classic villains. They actually add some new ones, some new lore, which is really fun. The voice cast is great. Just everything about this is awesome. So Yeah, it's great. Looks great, sounds great. For Turtle fans, this is a really fun time. We have the movie coming out pretty soon.
Hmm.
And I think maybe like a new series also I thought I heard. But yeah, it and the original 80s cartoon is actually streaming sometime soon as well. So that's really exciting. So yeah, this is great. I wanted to kind of kick this episode off with a on a high note. So we're not going to stay there on the high note, unfortunately, but this is great.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I believe they may have because I have the like first volume of that series that they released on DVD, but I don't think they continued it. So I think they didn't never release the complete series on DVD.
Okay, okay.
So I'm really glad that I can finally finish because I also dropped off, but I'm very excited about that release. And they just recently released the 2010s version on DVD as well, which I covered on a unboxing video earlier this week that or earlier this year that I can link in the show notes for anyone who wants like all the turtles that they can get. So that's it's an exciting time for it to be a Turtles fan. But I'm going to jump right into my slate, which I don't play favorites, but this may be like one of my best slates like ever. I'm very excited. It's very packed, so I'll try not to like spend 4 hours talking about everything. But there's a lot of exciting stuff, and one of the most exciting releases for me is this packed Scream Factory 4K release of Nightbreed from Clive Barker, which is somewhat of a controversial release. I'll kind of get into that in a little bit, but this film is very interesting. It had a turbulent release history, which I'll get into slightly, but I'll kind of talk about it here. So here's the 4K theatrical version, which is the only version that's in 4K. You also on the second disc get the theatrical Blu-ray, the director's cut on Blu-ray for the third disc, and then for a fourth disc of special features. So 4 disc, but only the theatrical cut, which is famously not Clive Barker's preferred cut. There is reversible cover art here, which I learned a bit of trivia from via Kim Newman in one of the features that this like these eyes are actually from like a different movie's poster that's like kind of like lesser known. So they just kind of cribbed from a different poster and thought no one would recognize it. But as far as the movie goes, I will admit, just due to the sheer amount of things that I had to watch this week, I only was able to get to the theatrical 4K version. But I do look forward to checking out the director's cut because I think it would probably shore up a lot of the problems that I did have with this. Even though I did like the movie overall, this was my first time watching it, and I know you were kind of talking up it quite a bit, so I was excited to check it out. I'm not as like well versed in Clive Barker as you are, but everything I've seen from him is at least interesting, even if some of it's a little bit flawed or uh, mostly due to studio editing because you don't let him do his thing. But for those who don't know, Nightbreed is, in its I guess most basic terms, is about an unstable like kind of unstable man who dreams of this place called Midian, where monsters are just kind of allowed to exist and be free and everything. But he kind of thinks of it as kind of a dream, and um, when in actuality it's real. But he is seeing his therapist, who I'll try not to spoil stuff too much, but played by David Cronenberg. He's kind of a weirdo. I really love David Cronenberg in this movie and the role he ends up playing. But things progress until the main character played by Craig Sheffer ends up in Midian, and it kind of becomes like half of a slasher film, half of like an underground fantasy horror film filled with like monsters, creatures of different sorts, and just kind of like navigating that world, balancing that with kind of the slasher aspects. And overall, I think it's a very interesting, very ambitious movie. And I would have liked to seen, because they say in the features, and you can kind of tell from the movie that Barker wanted to create kind of like almost like a cinematic universe out of this kind of world, which he was not able to do because of the financial success and kind of like the studio meddling. But it's a good movie. It's an interesting, like I more so appreciate it more than I love it from the one viewing, like I said, because they're just, it seems like it gives me whiplash sometimes, just this cut, because I'm just like, I don't know if I understand what is happening right now, because it's like jumping all over. It feels like there's large chunks of like information that I'm not being told. And from the little bit that I did see of the director's cut, because I did kind of listen to a little bit of the audio commentary on the director's cut, and they were kind of pointing out some of the scenes. I'm going to go back and watch the director's cut. It did seem like some of that connective tissue, especially like with the David Cronenberg character and Craig Sheffer and other elements, which I did not get far enough into the movie to make up the extra 20 minutes difference between them. It seems like it probably fills in a lot of that information where a lot of times I'm just like, wait, what is going on? What, like, how did we it's kind of a tonal whiplash, but overall it's a very inventive movie. I really, really love the makeup effects that are in this, because pretty much all of this is practical effects, and it's like so much better for it. So all the characters are very interesting. The vibe is really like unique, and I know you were talking about how you love like queer horror movies, and this is definitely it's like that classic kind of like X-Men type thing, like the outsiders that are like wanting to just like live peacefully but are being oppressed. Like, it's clear as day just what the kind of parallels are, kind of. But yeah, this is a really interesting, flawed movie, and I wish, even not having seen the director's cut, I wish both versions could have been given the 4K treatment. But I'm not exactly sure what the elements were for like the director's cut, because it wasn't until 2014 that eventually came out. It may have not been like perfect for 4K, but even still, it would have been nice to make that effort. But I'm not going to criticize this release too much, because it is a really great release overall, because Scream Factory, the 4K itself with the theatrical cut looks fantastic. It's from a 4K scan of the best available elements, they say, which usually you're hoping for an original camera negative. So that kind of puts you kind of like, even the theatrical cut is from the best available elements. So I'm unsure of how the director's cut would have been with that extra footage. But it looks really great. Dolby Vision. Everything is like very clean. Natural film grain is intact. Looks vibrant colors. Everything looks really great. The audio, there's the original 2.0 stereo and a 5.1 track. Both sound great from what I tested out. I mostly listened with the original stereo. From what I looked at of the director's cut, from whenever I was listening to the audio commentary, the extra footage seemed to blend pretty well with everything. But like I said, I did not get far enough to kind of make an overall assessment, which I'll give in my written review in about a week or so. This does have a ton of special features, including some that weren't even on the previous Scream Factory release on Blu-ray, because they ported over several of the Arrow Video special features that were overseas onto this release. The original two commentaries, they were on this. So the theatrical cut gets an audio commentary from the film historians, which I don't think was on the last release. And then the director's cut gets a Clive Barker and the kind of the man who's in charge of, or kind of shepherded this director's cut. In terms of the Arrow Video features, there's a piece from Kim Newman, which I referenced. There's a piece with Kat Ellinger, who kind of goes into the themes. There's an extra, I believe, like a interview with like a second unit director, which there's a ton of special features. Then also there's on the dedicated disc of special features, there's tons of featurettes, interviews, theatrical trailers, all that type of stuff. So this is just loaded. I'm sure Andre will put a better version of this cover art on the back, but it is just loaded with special features that fans will really love. So the only thing holding this back from being like a perfect release, I think, is the fact that fans will be disappointed that director's cut's not in 4K, but it is included on Blu-ray, and from what I saw, it looks very good. Even though the theatrical cut is a bastardized version of this, it is nice to have that on 4K. So overall, I think it's a really solid release, especially if you don't own this. I think this is the best release. And even if you do own the previous release and you're unsure if you're kind of on the fence about the director's cut not being on 4K, you do get the extra special features if you haven't already imported the Arrow video release. So it's a very well-rounded release, just slightly less than perfection.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but I have it over there. I have like like deluxe version of it, but yeah, I definitely will need to upgrade that, and that sounds awesome. Yeah, I was really excited for you to check that out, and you'll have to watch the director's cut, report back.
Yes.
So, speaking of like discoveries, this kind of leads into my next title, which is Gloria. Um, and have you seen this one?
I have not.
All right, it's really fun. So I say fun, it's very heart-wrenching, but it has its light moments. So like I said, Gloria is one of these really pleasant surprises. I am not super familiar with John Cassavetes, so take that with a grain of salt, what I'm about to say. So I'm not like I'm by no means an expert. But yeah, I like this. Gloria is a great neo-noir. It's grimy, but it has sort of a pulpy flair. The movie delivers in a really compelling relationship between Gloria and this little boy that she kind of like takes care of after they get entangled with the mob. And the little boy is hilarious. I think he like calls her ugly just straight up at a certain point. Like he's like has no filter. But they really develop this bond, and that's sort of like the overall kind of arc. I mean, yes, it's about gangsters and it's about this other stuff, but I feel like it's really the relationship sort of the core of it, which is what I think works really well with this. And everything else is just bonus. It's really fun. I love that this is like a I think this takes place in New York. Yeah, it's like this grimy, gritty, pre-cleaned up New York, which I love. Like, yeah, everything about this is awesome. This looks really great. I don't know if this is a new 2K scan, but the source for whatever it is looks really nice. It's not a super vibrant movie. Like it has that gritty, grimy kind of feel, but colors do pop and are really, really vibrant. And yeah, I think this one was a really interesting discovery. It's one that I will certainly watch again. And I just realized I did not take the slipcover out, and this does not have reversible cover art, but I do have a couple that do have reversible cover art a little bit later on. So it's a little tease for later. So yeah, Gloria, really good. Highly recommend it. If it's a blind buy, or if you're like me and you're not super familiar with the director, just check it out.
Nice. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think that's one of the titles Kino picked up from Twilight Time that was out of print. So it's probably the same transfer as on that, but they just kind of rescued it for people who didn't want to pay like $100 for an out of print Blu-ray. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to double up on my next pair of titles. I am continuing kind of on the slasher theme and my Scream Factory theme. They're very different, but also both pretty great. I'll start off. I'll build up to the one I know you're excited about. This one, the first one is The Burning, which is a more traditional slasher film. It starts off with a prank gone wrong that leads a caretaker to be set on fire and end up in there's no double-sided art. There's just the 4K and Blu-ray disc here. End up in like a burn unit and eventually like busting out for revenge on this like kind of a camp scenario. So it kind of follows like a the expected pattern. There's like a bunch of like young teenagers at a camp. They kind of go off on like this little like side trip while they're at camp, and they end up just kind of falling prey to this man. I think his name's Cropsy, who comes back for revenge. So it's very standard tropey stuff. You have traditional, just like the fake outs, like girls showering and like being like peered on by people, like, is it Cropsy or anything? You have people sneaking off to have sex that kind of like reap the fallout of that. So, but what I really like about this movie and what really surprised me is, like, while it does follow the conventions, it subverts them in like very interesting ways, which I really appreciated. There's especially, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's one scene where it really, I don't get taken by surprise by a lot of these very much, but there was one scene where I was like, okay, they're going to discover this one thing, and then whenever it actually came up, it just ended up a bunch of people get taken out at once in a way that I was not expecting, and I was like, Jesus Christ, okay, that was like like, usually you're used to most like slashers, like one by one people get taken out. You don't usually get to see like 5 or 6 people taken out at once. I was like, God damn, that's awesome. I loved it. But the special effects work, for the most part, you don't see Cropsy very much until the very end. The burn makeup, it's fine and everything. There's some interesting actors that appear in here, like a young Jason Alexander and Fisher Stevens are both in here. They're both fine in their roles. I enjoy them. But yeah, this was a pretty good surprise. And this looks really nice. 4K scan from the original camera negative. It is gorgeous. It's a fantastic transfer in Dolby Vision. The grain is perfection. The colors are rich and vibrant. It's as close to perfection as I could hope for. Original 2.0 audio. This does have 2 audio commentaries, an interview with special effects makeup wizard Tom Savini, some of the actors, some behind the scenes footage. Good, solid release here for slasher fans. So The Burning, great release. My next one, and the one I know you're a little bit more excited about because of a story I'm sure you'll get into, Motel Hell in 4K, which with the last one was more of a traditional slasher. This is like a very like acerbic, dark humored slasher. It's kind of like has elements of Sweeney Todd, which I appreciate. And okay, here's the double-sided art, and you might be like, oh, that looks like the original, but it's different. There's like nooses around the neck, and there's like a silhouette, where the other one is kind of the farmer's Farmer Vincent and his sister doing their thing. This one is pretty wild. I love this tagline because they do say it in the movie. It takes all kinds of critters to make Farmer Vincent fritters. That's fantastic. So this is, like I said, it's a really dark comedy / slasher film where there's this man who is running this motel, and he is famous for, like, world famous for his meats, and his meats are actually, of course, just like Soylent Green people. But how this kind of plays out, and there's some weird dynamics with like him causing accidents, but then like taking in like one of the victims and kind of like nursing her back to health, and how that kind of evolves is very weird and interesting, and I did not expect certain things to happen. But overall, I think this more leans into the comedic side of things rather than like horror, which I was perfectly fine with, considering these first 3 movies that I watched them all in one night, and they all gave me like different things within the horror genre, which I really love because it's a very nimble genre. This is a very darkly comedic movie, very messed up at points, but like very fun. I did especially like the chainsaw fight at the end. That's like, it goes on a little bit long, and it's like I expected more carnage, but like it's just fun to see people fighting with chainsaws. So if you want something more like a little kooky and like different within the slasher genre, Motel Hell, it's a lot of fun. And like The Burning, it looks really great on 4K. This one is a movie that takes place a lot in like at nighttime or in darkness, so I don't think you're going to see like a monumental shift in quality from the previously released Blu-ray, which I believe was from the same 4K scan. But this is from a 4K scan in the original camera negative. Has really nice deep black levels, some nice detail. Most of the colors come from like some neon signage, but there are scenes that take place during the day. This does have a commentary track, a 25-minute making of, some interviews, some featurettes. Overall, once again, a pretty well-rounded release. So both Motel Hell and The Burning, both of these are like A+ releases. I don't. The Burning, I forgot to mention, is from its unrated cut, so you do get the fully unrated cut. So there's no issues like Nightbreed where like the preferred cut is not included. Both of these are top of the line.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like I speak for a lot of people, which like I prefer the uncut to like anything that's like cut. So yeah, first of all, love both of those movies. I mean, so yeah, it's hard to pick which one I like more. I mean, The Burning kind of gives me that like amazing sort of camper slasher. But I like how so Cropsy is kind of based on like an urban legend, which is kind of based on a real person, maybe kind of. There's a documentary about it. I'll link where you can find that in the description. But Motel Hell is like my comfort junk food horror movie. I know I was telling you in private that like my mom like would tell me like, oh yeah, that's like the we like she's like our like the first date with your dad and I went to see Motel Hell at the drive-in. So that's great. But yeah, so that's awesome. I'm excited that they both look awesome, and it's gonna put another dent in my wallet, but what else is new? Unfortunately, it's funny, I don't have any horror titles this week, so you have all
What?
good horror. I know, right? Um, but I do have a interesting one. I'm not gonna say it's good, but it's something. And that is Ada Smith.
Mm.
And we got Steve McQueen kind of looking like Jesus there. It's like little Jesus pose. Here's the back. Slipcover. And I think this one is the one that has reversible. Yes. This has reversible cover art, which I don't know. I kind of like this one better, but I mean, but then again, you have like, I don't know, like his body looks weird here, and I'm not trying to like body shame anything. I mean, Steve McQueen's no longer with us, and this is just
Yeah.
a string, so I feel like it's fine, but I don't know, maybe it's the way it's painted, but anyways. Um yeah, I really wanted to like this movie because I really like Steve McQueen. He's an actor that I've just sort of started getting into his movies. Like I'm slowly starting to kind of get into his back catalog. I reviewed The Hunter pretty recently, and there was another title of his that I did that is just not coming to mind, but yeah, so Steve McQueen is just this rare talent that just really like ooze charisma, and he has this real aura of cool about him. So this is a neo-western slash revenge film, and I will say the one good thing about this movie is the cast. You know, of course Steve McQueen is awesome. Carl Malden is in this, Martin Landau. They all give like really great performances. I love when Martin Landau plays bad guys. That's awesome. Nobody is phoning it in with this movie. So this movie is a tonal mess. It really just kind of feels like it's all over the place and at I believe it's 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's very long, and it's very much a slog to get through. I can see if this was better paced, and maybe the narrative also was given another polish. This could be a really good movie. I think that if you're a Steve McQueen completist and you want everything that he was in, this is great. This does have a commentary by C. Courtney Joyner, who is a Western expert, really nice guy, author, scholar, filmmaker, everything. He knows his stuff. So that was really fun to listen to. So yeah, it's fine. It's just, I feel like if you're a Steve McQueen fan, I mean, I don't know if that will make the movie better, but it'll at least be tolerable for you. So this comes from a 4K scan of the 35 millimeter camera negative. It looks absolutely phenomenal. Like, this is, I mean, say what you will, this is very well shot. So it's nice to have this looking really fantastic. So the movie's meh, the release is really good. So if you are a fan of this movie, and you know, maybe it does have its fans, then this one is for you. It just didn't really connect with me.
Yeah, the last time, whenever you talk about The Hunter, I ended up liking it a little bit more than you. So hopefully this will be the same, because I am a Queen fan. But once again, I think it'll probably help me that I'm going in with kind of lower expectations, and I guess we'll see how it works out. My next title is from Sony Pictures. This is the newest in the direct-to-video animated line of Resident Evil films. This is Resident Evil Death Island. And this is comes in the 4K packaging, which I'll show up here. So it comes with a removable J card, which here you can kind of see here. So the front looks like this. Spine. Kind of see the creature design here, which is pretty cool. And it does have some interior artwork. So you get that same creature design on the disc. And then also, so here is some of our main characters. Stupid glare. Here. So yeah, I am not completely familiar with all the animated Resident Evil films. I reviewed the Netflix series Infinite Darkness, I think a couple years ago, whenever it came to Blu-ray. And so I've only seen that. I've seen the live action ones for the most part. I've seen a few of those, and I've never played any of the video games. So I may not be the ideal person to be talking about this, but I think it's important for like kind of to see how this would just work for an average viewer. Overall, I think it's a pretty entertaining film, but it is a little bit messy, and some of the dialogue is just kind of underwhelming, and the story itself is just kind of like it leaves something to be desired. I do know that there are a lot of characters who are returning from previous Resident Evil properties. Some of the characters that were in Infinite Darkness are in this one, but then there are other characters from the video games that are showing up, which obviously does not mean as much to me, but I think fans will appreciate to see these characters again. I believe this is also a direct sequel to the film Resident Evil Vendetta, which is a previous animated film. So I do not have that context as well. But basically, within this one, there's like a virus, or there's trying to be a sorry, I just realized I was about to start mixing up with Swamp Thing, because there's like an antidote thing there. But there is like all these characters end up on this like the island of Alcatraz, where there's like some shady shit going down with like viruses, and different people kind of developing different serums, and you do eventually see a bunch of like kind of the things that are birthed from this like fuckery, like the monsters that I showed you and everything. I think the action sequences are really great. Especially the scene that I showed you from the interior artwork where they're trapped in the tunnels with one of these creatures. That one's a really fun scene. The end kind of feels like kind of like a comic book movie because there's like all these characters facing like this really huge monster, and it's just the animation's really sleek. It's like very realistic. Like the movement is like sleek and realistic, and like it's very impressive animation. I just think once the action slows down and you take a moment to have like these characters just like sharing a moment, those moments don't always land. So it's kind of like a mixed bag. Like it's entertaining, but it doesn't really make you feel like super invested in these characters unless maybe you've played these video games and you already love them. So that's my layman's review of this. It's okay, but if you're a fan of the series, I think you'll like it. If you're trying to like have like a new entry point, I would not recommend this. Even just like kind of like catching up like maybe on Infinite Darkness or some of like the other earlier movies would probably be better than just like jumping right into this. It's okay. It looks really great in 4K. I think this might be the first animated one released on 4K. It's in Dolby Vision, looks great, but great colors, no compression artifacts, banding, anything like that. Dolby Atmos audio is very immersive and bombastic. It's really nice. Has a fair number of featurettes on here. There's like 5 or 6 featurettes. Some of them repeat the same information, but it's just a lot of like the development of the story, the motion capture performances, the other visual effects, all that kind of stuff, and like a theatrical trailer. So recommended for hardcore fans only. Everyone else might want to just kind of dip their toe into the franchise, maybe with a different entry.
Yeah, I mean, I fall in that sort of, I'm not super familiar with I know some of the films, but that's about it. But sounds interesting. So my next pair of titles are from Warner Archive, and that is Helen of Troy and The Fastest Gun Alive. And we're gonna start with Helen of Troy, and go and the back. And yeah, so this is the first time watching this film, actually, for both of these. And yeah, so Robert Wise directed this. You might not really know his name, but you have most definitely heard of his movies. He did the original West Side Story. He did The Haunting, also the original version of that. Many others. Yeah, he's just to say he's very good at what he does. He's very prolific. And overall, I think he does a nice job here. On the technical side, this movie is really stunning. Like great visual effects, the costumes, the production design, the battle scenes are just epic. Like I would even say sometimes breathtaking. I think the issue is the human drama is very meh. And I've heard this from modern critics and from critics from the time that it just does drag on. And also, by the time this was being made, not a lot of these big budget epics were kind of being produced. Like they sort of went by the wayside, and by the mid to late 60s, they were all but extinct completely. So it does kind of feel like a throwback to maybe like the epics of the 30s and 40s. But yeah, it's story-wise it's fine. Just visually, and just everything else, it's just breathtaking. Like I just think, like if you like spectacle and don't mind the story being kind of meh, Helen of Troy, really good in that regard. I know that's not a glowing endorsement, but I mean, and also it looks great. I mean, again, Warner Archive, they always like bring their A game, especially when you have something that's this visually sumptuous. You really want that kind of big, bold, bright, restoration. Yeah, I just this was good. Young Bridget Bardot, so that's always a plus. So, I have to say this next one is one I really like. I think we'll probably watch it multiple times even. That's The Fastest Gun Alive. Um, and it's funny because I feel like I just did a yeah, I did a Glenn Ford movie last week and now I'm blanking on it. It was like,
Oh,
oh,
Human
Human
Desire.
Desire. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We watch a lot of movies, folks, and sometimes they just blur together. But
Mhm.
yeah, so Fastest Gun Alive, it's really fantastic. It really works kind of on every level. Glenn Ford is phenomenal. He's fastly becoming one of my favorite actors the more I see some of his back catalog, but he plays a pretty ordinary shopkeeper, and he has a wife. He's living a very like almost painfully mundane existence, and he may or may not be this legendary gunfighter. So yeah, everything about this movie works though. It's briskly paced. It gives a lot of depth in character. George, who is Ford's character, is kind of an enigma, and the screenwriters do a really good job of sort of just slow dripping information to the audience. There's a really nice twist at the end, and everybody's just so great in it that you're hooked from beginning to end. And I'm not going to give away the ending, but the ending is kind of everything. So this also looks really good. This has like the other one has some featurettes. This one has a Tom and Jerry cartoon that's fun trailer. um I really wish more of these had like commentaries, like historical commentary tracks. I think that would be really fun. But yeah, this one looks great as well. Both very different, but both give you a little something different. So yeah, I mean, this one's fine. This one I think is just a stone cold classic. So
That's awesome. Yeah, like you, I feel like I've been like in a Glenn Ford hole recently because like you might not believe this, but I watched two Glenn Ford movies this week from the Warner Archive, not of that movie. So
oh,
I watched it started with A Kiss and the remake of Cimarron, and then you just covered Courtship of Eddie's Father like a month ago.
mhm.
So he's just all over the place, especially Warner Archive. So that's pretty interesting. I find it interesting.
I do too.
Thank you. Thank you. As long as you find it interesting. So I've been talking about some incredibly dark, depressing, disturbing stuff. The first like 4 or 5 titles I've talked about. So I just injected something lighter for this. This probably won't be an in-depth discussion, but this is from Paramount, and this is The Ladies' Man on Blu-ray. With the great Tim Meadows. This was a 2000 comedy based on the SNL sketch. And I'd never seen this. My wife had always like kind of referenced it in different terms. So I was excited to finally check this one out. And I will say it's good. It's fine. Like it's kind of what you expect from like that late 90s, early 2000s kind of comedy. There's some very dated elements, especially with like current like cultural things and like representation things. But luckily they don't have like a lot of like low hanging fruit. Like they're not doing a lot of punching down. Like even when there are like gay characters on screen, they're not made to be like horrible people or anything. They're just kind of like, no, you just like it's cool. You just need to like accept you're gay and stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, like it's just kind of like it's more like done out of love rather than like we hate gay people, which is great. And then like there's I really expected them to have like a really cringe like trans joke at one point, but they didn't, and I was like, thank God. So there are some things that do not age well, but for the most part, things hold up pretty well. It's not the funniest movie, but I got some chuckles from it. The it's just like a man who's like the ladies' man who hosts like a radio talk show, who he's always saying outrageous things, but like people love him, and the whole premise revolves around like like a group of men getting together to like take him down because he's been sleeping with all their wives. And it's led by Will Ferrell, and I did not expect to see him in this, but he was fun. So overall, if you're just wanting kind of like a light, dumb comedy, The Ladies' Man, it hits the spot. If you like the sketches, I think you'll enjoy it. If you're not, if you are kind of like think that type of humor is like dated and everything, I'd stay far away because it's definitely that. There's no special features besides a trailer. It seems to be from like a kind of older transfer. It could look better, but it's not like the worst looking movie. It's just kind of like looks a little soft at points. 5.1 soundtrack sounds great. So, Ladies' Man, it's on Blu-ray. It looks the best it has yet. Not great, but if you like the movie, it's worth picking up.
Nice. So it's funny because I'm gonna bring it down a little bit again, but then it's okay because I feel like we're gonna pick it back up again.
Now with my next titles.
Well, I will eventually, but
Yeah.
so this one is Persian Lessons, and this was a fascinating one. This one was one that, like, heavy subject matter. I probably drug my feet on it a little bit because like it kind of zaps you a little bit, so you kind of need to be in the right mind frame. Essentially, it is about a Jewish gentleman that is mistaken for this Persian guy that is supposed to teach this officer Persian, hence the title. And he basically makes his own language up to sort of fool this officer. And it's good. I will say it's not great. The stuff I liked about it is it's very moving, like the finale where he's recounting like he has memorized all these names of these like people, is just heartbreaking. Have you seen this one?
Yes, and I don't want you to backtrack or anything, like, because I don't want to influence you, but this is one of my favorite 2023 releases. I really love this movie.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I do think that there's like a lot of great stuff. I feel like they are good at developing a lot of tension. There was like times when I'm like, is he gonna get found out? I'm trying to be careful with what I say because I don't want to give anything away. But yeah, because you probably know what I'm talking about when they discover somebody that might be the actual guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like, yes, it does a really great job of kind of milking the tension for all it's worth. I do think it is a little slow at times. I feel like there's things where like maybe the pacing could have been maybe a little bit better, but I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought like, I mean, the ending was just so satisfying on two levels. Like what happened to the officer and the outcome with the I'm sorry, I forget his character name. But yeah, so it's really good. I just think it's maybe a little too long, but what did you think of it? So you said it was your favorite from this.
It's one of my favorites. Like it snuck up on me like how much I ended up enjoying this one. Just it just worked on a level for me of just him having to remember every single like word he assigns to like he creates, like I said, he creates this language, so he has to like memorize all these words, and just like all the like tension and like his relationship with this officer. It was so weird because like I know this officer, like he's part of like this like concentration camp and everything, but like the movie, they didn't portray him in a sympathetic light. But like there were times where I'm like, do I feel bad for this officer? And I'm like, no, I don't need to feel bad for him. But just like, and then like ultimately where he ends up, like I was just like, oh, I'm affected by this, but like I don't know, it just left me with such conflicting emotions at points. I'm like, I appreciate what this movie's making. It's making me feel something, which so few movies do, unfortunately. That I was just like, oh, this movie is surprisingly good. So I would hope people would at least check it out to see, because it's like very under the radar, and but I think it deserves like at least to be checked out to see if you respond to it as well as I did, or maybe on the level you did.
Yeah, and it's definitely one that I would watch again. You said you summed it up perfectly where it kind of snuck up on me. I thought it was going to be very dry, but it actually ended up being very compelling. So if you this is definitely one I think that you can rent from Kino now. So I will link that. So if y'all want to try before you buy, or you kind of just, I mean, I'm assuming if you watch this, you do home video, but like sometimes you want to like sample something and you're still supporting Kino, so that's awesome. But yeah, it's a good one.
Absolutely. My next, okay, so I'm doing another pair of titles. This is my last pair of titles. But so I know we had the silent corner. I guess maybe we should call this the steamy corner. These are a pair of titles. I've done one set from this label before. This is from Imprint Films from Australia. So these, you'll have to import these, but they will play in Blu-ray players worldwide. So you're safe, but both of these are not available in the US. So that's why I was especially excited to check these out. The first one is Damage, which already has a quite a provocative cover. This has Jeremy Irons and Juliette Binoche. Once again in the throes of passion. So, and then underneath the slip box here, so it kind of slips out, you have Juliette Binoche here, who I love her to death. And that's quite some interior artwork. So here's the disc art, which is the same as the front, but this interior, shield your eyes, children. So right in the throes of passion here, there you go. So enjoy, people. Don't say I never did anything for you. This movie, it's very simple. It gets right to it, right off the bat. I believe Jeremy Irons, he plays a government official. I don't think he's the prime minister, but he may be. He's a member of parliament. His son starts dating Juliette Binoche, and then he starts having an affair with Juliette Binoche. So he starts having an affair with his son's girlfriend, and just kind of the movie kind of deals with the ramifications of that, of them like sneaking around. And what the potential of the fallout of if they were to be caught, what would like the fallout be to their lives. So there's like, these two are so passionate with one another, and like they're just kind of like, they're leaving all sense behind. Like they know that they shouldn't be doing this, but they just kind of get tied up in one another and just find themselves sneaking off to be with each other all the time. And so a lot of this movie is just like sex scenes, and they are quite something, but they are not as like graphic as I was expecting them to be. They are very passionate, but there's not like a ton of nudity, and the nudity that is there, it's not like super on display. Like it's not like exploitative. I don't think. Like it's very like the scene that I showed you, a lot of that's just like there's like a lot of like covered, like stuff covered, like arms covering while there's like thrusting and stuff. So there is nudity, and you do get to see Jeremy Irons running downstairs completely naked, full frontal. So if that appeals to you, there you go. But like these two, some of the love scenes between them are pretty wild. Like there's a lot of just like flailing about, and like it's very interesting. But The movie itself, it's pretty good. It's um there's not a lot to it, and it kind of like repeats a lot of the same things until you kind of like they keep going off and like being with each other, and then just kind of like wondering if they're gonna like what they like question wrestling with those kind of moral questions and if they should keep seeing each other, but them being so enraptured in one another, they keep doing it until ultimately it all comes to a head. Um, and once it does, it kind of all just kind of like fades out and just kind of like, okay, that's what happened. I think it's impactful in its own way. I just don't think it's like an amazing movie. But in terms of like erotic thrillers slash dramas, I think it's pretty solid. This is directed by Louis Mal, who's done a lot of classic cinema. We're going to be talking about him in a couple weeks. I know you will, because I know Pretty Baby is coming from Kino Classics, which is also kind of a controversial movie, which we'll get into whenever we talk about it. But so he's no stranger to kind of taboo movies, but this one, it's entertaining, especially if you love these actors. It's just it's not perfect. But another one I was excited to check out, mainly because of cast, is My Summer of Love with Emily Blunt. One of her early roles. I think it's pre Devil Wears Prada, so you can kind of see them here. And I did not realize until I was watching the special features, which here's the cover art underneath them, um, that this is directed by Pavel Pawlikowski, who directed the Oscar-nominated Cold War from a few years ago, which was the same year as Roma. He also did Ida, which was also Academy Award nominated. So here's the underneath artwork here. So this also has Patty Considine from House of the Dragon, and Natalie Press is the starring alongside Emily Blunt. So this one is kind of like two sides of the tracks, girls kind of coming together. Like there's our main character is kind of from a more working class area. She lives with her brother, who is like newly going through like a religious phase, and she kind of feels like isolated from him, until one day she kind of comes across Emily Blunt's character, who's kind of comes from more of a opulent side of town, and they kind of like become kind of like enamored with one another. It's not strictly like sexual or queer, but there is elements of that. But it's just kind of the infatuation of meeting a new person, and when whatever kind of form that takes, and kind of also how that intense, these both kind of deal with intense like passion and like emotions over like a brief period of time, and kind of the fallout of that, which I think it makes for like, I think Imprint was just very horny over the summer, because they released, there's more movies I'm not covering that I was just like making me blush. But this one, it's pretty solid. Once again, I think there's elements that probably could have been like improved, but overall, I think this is a pretty effective little like emotional drama between these two girls. And yeah, overall, I did not even talk about how these look, but like Damage comes from a 2K scan, and it looks really nice. It's really nice grain structure, no artifacts or anything, looks really nice. It has a nice selection of special features, including some archival making of featurettes, a new like 16-minute piece from a film historian talking about like the themes of the movie, and then like a 15-minute interview with Louis Mal. This My Summer of Love comes from a 4K scan, which also looks very great. This no anomalies to speak of, nice resolved film grain. This doesn't have any new special features, but it does have an audio commentary from the director, and an array of like brief, like 4 or 5 minute interviews with all the cast members and the director, some deleted scenes, and yeah, so and some B-roll footage of them like filming like a specific scene. So if you do not want to wait for these to be released in the US, and because who knows when they will be, Imprint has you covered. You can import them from Imprint directly, or there's like an array of great local, like US based retailers that will sell these, like Diabolic, Orbit DVD, Atomic Video Store. So just like check out some of those or imprint directly. These are region free, like I said, so you can play them in US players. You don't even have to get a special player. So, and they're very great releases. So imprint, you did a good job. Thank you for allowing me to finally see these movies.
Yeah, that sounds very titillating. Not sure about Naked Jeremy Irons, but hey, if that's your thing, that's cool. I'm supportive of
It should
that.
be all of our things.
Okay. Um, so so from here on out, it's really like no real downers here. So my next yeah, my next one is Film Noir, The Dark Side of Cinema, 15. And back there. So I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. I'll probably save like the one I found most interesting for last. So we got The Girl in the Kremlin, and this is freaking wild. Have you watched this one yet?
Yeah, it's my least favorite of the set.
Yeah. Probably would agree with you. This one, I think the introduction as like the opening scene is actually really kind of cool. So, the whole premise is like Stalin faked his death. He's going to get plastic surgery, and then they basically have like people on the American side trying to foil this and discover the secret, all that good stuff. Zsa Zsa Gabor is in it. But the opening scene is really weird. It's very like weirdly horny, like where they're like shaving her head, but they keep like there's these really uncomfortable like close up eye shots of them like really just being so into this. And it's just really weird. And it kind of, did you ever see Sam Fuller's The Naked Kiss?
No, I think I have that from Criterion, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, it's so good, but you'll see why after you see that film. That kind of gives me sort of that vibe a little bit. But so after that, it's very dull. It's very long, drawn out exposition. People sitting, people talking. A little bit happens, and we have to talk about it some more. Rinse, repeat. The last 10-15 minutes are actually really rad, in my opinion. Like you have like the double Zsa Zsa Gabor scene, and she's like bald, and it's weird, and it's awesome. And yeah, then it's over. Like I kind of thought like the best friend was gonna turn out to be like a mole, or like he seemed kind of sus, but of course not, because that would make the movie interesting. So Man Afraid is the next one, and I want to give a quick shout out. This one has a commentary from David Duvall and David Dakota. They're like best friends. David Delval's a big fan a friend of the channel. So this one starts out very creepy. Like it's like this kid sleeping in bed. This guy creeps through his bedroom. You don't really know what's going on. You're like, holy crap. So it's a burglar, and I guess like he somehow is killed, which seems not very plausible. He hits him in the head, but it's like a concussion at best. But anyways, he dies. I forget why the wife was blinded by that, but she was temporarily blinded for plot reasons. And it's sort of like a very mild thriller. Like it reminded me of like Cape Fear, but not good. Like it was just like Cape Fear, but like we're not trying as hard. So yeah. I mean, I think the cast does a fine job. I think that there are moments that are genuinely creepy, like when the guy's like menacing the kid. Like that's some good stuff. It's just very bland, and the ending is just super bland, and I I didn't like it. So the tattered dress, I think, is probably one of the more interesting ones out of this collection. It is essentially, what if the lawyer suddenly finds himself on trial? And I think it's fairly interesting. It does have a nice sleazy underbelly element that I enjoyed. It is at times borderline campy. I think that kind of helps just plod through the so-so narrative at times. What was your favorite out of these movies?
I actually want to stick up for A Man Afraid. I really liked that one. So,
Okay.
but Tattered Dress was good too. I really liked Man Afraid. I do not agree with your sentiments, but I respect them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, all of these, I mean, to various degrees, there's something interesting about each of these films, but I think we can both agree that the girl in the Kremlin is not good.
Yeah, it's flawed.
I just wished it was weird. I just wish it would have embraced that weirdness. Like, come on, y'all aren't Hitchcock. Just go nuts with it.
Yeah.
All of these have commentary tracks, and they all have trailers. This one doesn't have, it just has TV spots. So really nice release. These all look really nice. These all come from new 2K scans of the original negatives. They're all pretty nice looking. I would say like some are a little bit more flawed than others appearance wise, but they're all like, you can tell they have been remastered and refreshed. They definitely look better than probably what they deserve, but yeah, it's a cool set. I think I just like how we get like a really interesting array of like noir. So I'm kind of curious like what the next set's gonna be and like keep them coming. So yeah, and I loved how they all have commentary tracks. Like that is like my favorite feature. So
Yeah, absolutely. Like even with some inconsistency, I always love that series, so I recommend it. My next title is another Showtime. I think it was supposed to be a series, but I guess we can call it a limited series since it was canceled. This is The Man Who Fell to Earth, which is kind of like a sequel to the David Bowie movie, which I recently picked up on 4K from Best Buy because they have an exclusive Steelbook, but I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. Probably should have before I watch this, but I know that there are some kind of like references to that movie within this one. I won't spoil a lot of stuff, but there are some characters that kind of return. But basically, what this is a 10-episode series from Showtime about an alien who comes to Earth who's like kind of bringing like a warning that like it's kind of like an environmentalist warning where it's like his planet has like basically turned to dust, and he's kind of warning that this planet will as well, and he's trying to kind of like figure out how to save both of their worlds, and just kind of working with this woman, like it's Chiwetel Ejiofor, working with Naomi Harris's character, and then there's a bunch of great actors throughout. Bill Nye shows up. Crap, I won't remember her name, but there's a lot of characters or a lot of actors on here that I really like. So this is a pretty solid series. I wouldn't say it's flawless by any means. There's some like filler here and there that maybe didn't need to make it 10 episodes, but overall I like this journey of like this alien like learning to exist on Earth, and then also just trying to like figure out how to play within like this world to like get what he needs to do done, and also like learning about humanity, all that type of stuff. Overall, I think while the narrative overall is pretty good, I think the performances kind of lift everything up. Chiwetel Ejiofor is like one of our better actors working today, and he does an amazing job. He totally commits to his character. And then Naomi Harris, she's always just amazing as well. So I guess the way this ends, it would have been nice to have a second season, but I don't think it completely like it's not a detriment that it only lasted one season. I think overall it's a pretty satisfying story with what it tells. I just see where they could have expanded upon it on future seasons, but as it is, if you like sci-fi narratives, The Man Who Fell to Earth, it doesn't like diminish the quality or like taint the quality of the original movie. It's just like an interesting addition to the movie if you want to check it out. This is one of the series I didn't get to check before the recording if this was still on like Paramount Plus / Showtime. So you might be able to sample it, but the last couple Showtime shows I've talked about, they have already removed it from the streaming platform, so it might not be there. But overall, good quality, 3-disc, 10 episodes, so not a lot of compression quality. There's 5.1 sound, no subtitles, weirdly, which for those who need subtitles, I wanted to note that. There's 2 featurettes, one totaling 9 minutes, one totaling 24 minutes, each just dealing with like the production and everything of the show. So overall, it's a good release from Showtime. I'm glad it got a physical media release, especially on Blu-ray. So check it out if you're somewhat interested.
Nice. I was trying to look it up really quick while you were talking, and I can't see. It says it's streaming on maybe Apple and Prime, but maybe that's just a rent. We can link in the descriptions where, if any, it's streaming as well.
Okay.
So for my final title, this I saved the best for last. I was so insanely excited for this. This is William Friedkin's To Live and Die in LA.
Nice.
And yeah. Now, have you seen this one before?
No, I've always wanted to, and it got to a point where I was like, I'm gonna watch this, and they're like, oh, it's coming to 4K. I'm like, guess I'm waiting a little longer.
So there is the discs. Again, here is the back. Yeah, so I'm a huge William Friedkin fan, and this one was weirdly like one that just kind of escaped me. So this was a great time to check it out. This is probably the most 80s film you're likely to see. Like, not only just because, I mean, it's like the everything is just so over the top. Just the look, the tone, the themes of capitalism being king. It's all just very wonderfully 80s. So if you dig that, you will be on board right away for this film. But like Friedkin really is firing on all cylinders here. It's a fantastic story. The pacing is amazing. The sets, like Friedkin always is great with his visual flair. Some of it was channeling a little Michael Mann from the 80s, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the movie really grabs you. It starts out pretty like a very standard plot, but as it keeps unfolding, the stakes just keep getting higher and higher. And it has such a, I'm not gonna spoil it, but like shock twist that I didn't really expect. And the finale is just very nihilistic. It's kind of like this viewpoint of everybody just gets kind of stuck in this cesspool, kind of a worldview. Yeah, and Willem Dafoe, amazing, so young in this, very menacing, very creepy, very wonderful. You can tell like he was going to be a star. Like he just had such a presence to him, and he doesn't have like the biggest role, but I mean when he's on screen, like holy shit, like you pay attention. So it's really good. It's one I'm probably gonna revisit real soon because it's so fantastic. And this is a really great time for William Friedkin fans for home video. We got The Exorcist coming out on 4K. From Imprint, we have Bug, which is, oh my God. Have you seen Bug, by the way?
No.
It's so good. Oh my gosh, if you get that, I will be so jealous, and I'm gonna be very excited to talk about it because it's perfection. But yeah, so you know, that's my final title. I'm ending it on a high note. Amazing release. I love that they ported over the commentary track. They have some really great featurettes, like just stellar all around.
That's awesome. I'm also ending with a 4K release. It is one that I've already teed up. And that is the MVD release of Swamp Thing on 4K. And now I finally can show it off in all of its glory. So this is from director Wes Craven, which this is interesting because if I would not have been told this was Wes Craven, I probably wouldn't have guessed it, even though there's elements I can see of it, maybe like more of his era of like The Hills Have Eyes or something. But I don't know. It just didn't always feel like a Wes Craven movie, but it also, I like the movie. There's no reversible cover art for what it's worth. And I do like that they're the MVD, they're going with the kind of like laser disc, kind of like laser vision artwork theme for their 4K titles. And then there's a fold out artwork with that same art. But overall, so people may remember that I actually covered this sequel of this earlier this year when it came to 4K. So it was interesting watching it in kind of like the wrong order. But overall, I would say the Wes's version is definitely better. And this, I wasn't really sure what to expect from the story. It's just kind of, and it's what I was kind of getting confused with the Resident Evil earlier. This involves like some scientists kind of developing a serum that could like kind of help basically the world, just like help everyone in the world. But then of course the powers that be kind of like come in and try to ruin stuff and kind of steal the serum and everything. And in the process, the lead scientist, he kind of gets doused with something, and then here comes the Swamp Thing. Ray Wise stars in this as the scientist. Adrienne Barbeau, she comes in as kind of like a government official type person, and she ends up getting kidnapped by the people who break in and everything. And then Swamp Thing comes to rescue her and enact his kind of like his own brand of justice. This kind of felt, it was more of like an 80s action movie than I expected it to be, because there's like a lot of like kind of like shootouts, and but then there's also like a lot of like 70s influences as well. I expected with Wes directing that it'd be more horror influenced and like more creepy stuff, which like the Swamp Thing, like he is like he like has great like makeup work and stuff, but he doesn't do anything particularly like menacing or anything. But overall, I still found it very enjoyable. The tone kind of like threw me off the first viewing. But now that I kind of know what I'm getting into, I'll probably like it even more in the future. But it's a very fun movie. It's just like, it's not what I expected from Wes Craven, but really good movie. It's very entertaining. And I like the Swamp Thing, like suit and special like makeup effects and everything. Adrienne Barbeau is very good. This new release, I think, is the first time the unrated cut has been released in the US since it was like pulled from the theatrical release, because as Adrienne kind of explains, she didn't seem like mad about it, but she was like, there was a clause in my contract that like I wouldn't do nudity, and they released a cut with nudity in the US, and then they had to like pull it and like recut it to a PG rating without her nudity. So if you do want the unrated cut, you can now see it. And both 4K and on the Blu-ray. And so it's only like a minute and a half to 2 minute difference between the cuts, but it is good to have both versions available. So this new version is from a 4K scan, 16-bit scan of the original camera negative. Like I said, both cuts of the film are presented in 4K with Dolby Vision. It has, I believe, the original 2.0 audio. And this does have a couple of commentary tracks, one from one of the makeup artists, and then another archival with Wes Craven, and he has a lot of great insights into the movie. There are an array of interviews on here as well, like I said, with Adrian, with the young boy who is in the movie grown up, and like some of the special like other like editors and stuff on this. So overall, a good selection of special features, really great 4K presentation. It's been restored very nicely. All the film grain is resolved well, really nice colors, no damage to speak of, just a very, very nice release. I'm glad NBD, they started off with Rain Man, but like their Rewind collection is now getting into it. And it's like, I think genre fans are going to have a ball with whatever they decide to release. So Swamp Thing, I think, is a good first step. And like I said, if you want to own it, this is my segue. If you want to own it, we are giving away a copy. I have another copy sealed that I will send out to anyone who watches this video and lets us know what release we just talked about is your favorite from this video, and leave a comment, and you'll be entered to win one copy of this. You can also do it on the episode from last week, as well as following our social media. So there's a couple different options for you to like plug in like your chances to win. But Swamp Thing on 4K is a really great release, and I think it's one you're going to want to own. And it's one of the best, like in a week full of stacked releases, it's one of our best. So I'm very excited to be able to offer that up to our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so awesome. Like I said at the beginning, I feel like this is like maybe like our coolest giveaway so far. And just as always, like, comment. Again, comments will get you entered to win if you tell us what title you liked. And just as always, thank you for hanging out with us.